Welcome to Batara Immigration Live. Your host is Immigration Attorney Carlos Batara. Immigration Live has been designed to provide you and your family with insights, tips, and advice for your journey to immigration success, permanent residency, and citizenship. Every week, Immigration Live will bring you special guests, all with unique insights about immigration issues. There's no fluff here, just good old-fashioned get-togethers and chats, live to your desktop, computer, or mobile phone. This week's guest is Chasity Alvarez, the founder of Fair Unity, a Facebook group which centers on family immigration issues. She'll share her views on why immigration reform efforts have not been successful, how she became involved in the immigrant rights struggle, when immigrants need to slow down to avoid bad decisions, and more. And now, for your host, Carlos Batara.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Immigration Live. This is our first show. The idea sprung out of a lot of different interactions I've had with people on Facebook. And most of the guests you'll see will come out of the Facebook group. In fact, if you look at the guest list today, it looks like a who's who of Facebook immigration movers and shakers. But before we begin, I'd like to give two special thanks. First, I'd like to thank James Chapman. You can find him at 123edge.com. He's the engineer and the brains behind this show. And secondly, Kim Lamb, whose voice you heard at the outset. She's with Integrity Project Management. She's been my virtual assistant for quite a while, and she's the one that does all the text and the artwork for the show. I'd like to give a special thanks to both of them. But most of all, I'd like to thank the brave and courageous Chasity Alvarez, who's with us today and who'll be speaking to us in just a moment. Immigration Live is coming to you from, I guess we can call it Immigration Central right now. We're in the heart of Riverside County. We're in Hammond. We're right by the Murrieta folks. You know those, the Murrieta folks. You've heard about them. Anyway, without any further ado, Chasity Alvarez. Chasity, hello. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Chasity, can you tell me how you got involved? You're the founder of Fair Unity.
Yes.
Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about Fair Unity, what it is, what its purpose is?
Fair Unity is basically a Facebook page that got started after I went to court with my husband, who's in removal proceedings, and it's a family-based group, pretty much, that centers around family unity in immigration policy.
What is family unity?
Well, for me, as an American citizen, if my husband were to be deported, I would either be left behind or I would have to go with him. And that's a topic in immigration policy that's not discussed.
Well, let's go to that for a moment. Okay, you're a U.S. citizen, correct?
Yes.
Are you naturalized or born here in the U.S.?
Born. I was born here.
Okay. And so you married someone from another country?
Correct.
Okay. And when you married him, did you ever think you'd have problems due to his nationality to not be able to stay together?
No. It was always something we thought would be an easy fix.
Before you got married, what did you know about immigration?
Nothing.
After you got married, did you know anything about immigration until your husband got picked up?
Very, very little. I tried to bury my head in the sand. I was scared to death. I didn't want to hear about it.
What country is your husband from?
Mexico.
Has he ever told you about his journeys to the United States? If he went through any special ordeals?
Sure.
What has he told you?
He told me about the Mexican police, and they stopped them at the river. He crossed through the river, and they took the coyote and they beat him up and took his money, and then hours later they brought him back and actually gave the guys in the group a ride to as close to the border as they could possibly get, dropped him off, and they went about their.
Now, now you said the police and the coyotes, were they working in tandem, or were those separate ordeals?
I think it was just separate ordeals, but opportunists are opportunists.
So it sounds like your husband was pretty committed to coming to the United States. Is that a fair description?
Yes.
What was it in his background that drove him to have such a strong drive to come here?
Well, both of his parents, his mom and his dad, are, well, His dad passed away when he was a little over 1, leaving behind 8 kids. They were so poor. My husband got his first pair of shoes when he was 17, and that was because his brother came here to work. It was horrible. They never had enough to eat. Then his mother remarried, and it ended up being 13 children in the same situation. And he said that, he was tired of watching them starve. So his brother told him the only way to help the situation was to come to the United States. And so he did.
So out of the 13 kids in the family, how many live in the United States today?
2.
Just his brother and your husband?
Yes.
And does your husband contribute to sending money home or anything like that?
Yes.
Now, as a U.S. citizen marrying an immigrant, were you the first person in your family to have that experience?
Yes.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, there's 7 of us.
Okay. And how was the reaction in your family to that situation?
At first, pretty much everybody disowned me for a long time, and they didn't like it at all. I come from a very racist family, actually, and they weren't having it.
When you say disowned you, can you describe that a little?
I went 2 years without speaking to anybody, and on our wedding day is when my dad actually met my husband, because up until that point, that was taboo. You just don't do that.
Was that because of his nationality or because he didn't have immigration papers?
They didn't know that. They didn't know that part of it. It was just because of his nationality.
What is your family's feeling, if you know it, the members of your family, how do they feel about all the talk regarding immigration reform today?
They don't now they've gotten to know my husband very well, and now they've embraced him and they love him. So now they've stepped aside and they support all measures of legalization, but before they didn't.
How long was the process from not accepting, from isolating you, to finally fully accepting your husband? How long was that process?
About 2 years. I'd say when we got married, they finally realized, well, she's serious. And if they want to be a part of my life, then he comes with it. So I would say, yeah, 2 years.
Do you live close to your mom and dad?
My mom, yeah. My dad lives in another state.
Mm-hmm. And the community you live in, are they accepting of immigrants, or are you near Murrieta, like, over here?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, this is not the melting pot in Indiana, for sure. You don't see a lot of Hispanics. You don't see any African Americans. It's white people.
Well, how have you, but that just because people are non-minorities, so to speak, doesn't mean they're not accepting of immigrants. So, your community...
Well, that's true. That's true. I don't know if they're not accepting of immigrants so much. It's just not a magnet, if you will. There's not much awareness of even the topic of immigration is not something that we talk about around here.
Mm-hmm. Would it be perhaps related to the type of jobs, or do you think it's like the weather? What do you think? Why there isn't a bigger immigrant community there?
I would say it's the jobs. We have a lot of factories, but those factories, you have requirements. You need the GED or the high school diploma or college education, something that immigrants can't supply. Or if they can supply it, it's not necessarily what they're looking for. So I would definitely think it's the jobs.
And your husband, when he came to the United States, did he speak any English?
No.
How much English does he speak now?
He doesn't speak Spanish anymore. When he's on the phone with his mom, he will forget and he'll revert back to English. And he'll have to go back and forth. It's kind of amusing for me.
Mm-hmm. And do you speak Spanish?
Yes, but rusty, because when I first met him, he didn't speak English, so I spoke Spanish to him. But then for the last 10 years, it's been all English, so I'm very rusty.
Well, let's talk about that, because you said you're in removal proceedings, right? Your husband's in removal proceedings, correct?
Correct.
You want to explain what removal proceedings are for the audience?
Basically, it's deportation proceedings. They want to deport him back to Mexico.
And why? Because he doesn't have papers?
Right.
And so do you, what happens? How does he fight that? What does he have to do in court to deal with that?
Well, we the first step, we had to file the I-130. We got that approved, and now we just recently filed the 42B, which is the cancellation of removal. And
so you're gonna seek cancellation removal, right? And that asks the judge to cancel the removal. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And on what grounds can the judge decide to cancel a removal?
Hardship to me as the United States citizen.
Mm-hmm. And what have you thought about how you're going to go about proving the hardship and how difficult that is?
Yes, I have a suitcase full, well, more than that, medical files for myself, for my mother, who I'm also taking care of my mother. She has issues that she can't live on her own, and we're responsible for her. So I think all of that together is proving our hardship.
Now, what happens if your husband's not successful? What will happen then?
Well, I'll have to go to Mexico.
And have you ever been to Mexico?
Nope.
And if you go to Mexico, how will that affect your relationships with all your relatives and everything here in the United States?
It'll probably be like what happened with my husband. When he's been here for 13 years, almost 14, and his relationships are pretty much severed. He's a part of the family, but at a distance. They don't know each other anymore. So I would imagine it would be the same thing. My concern would be obviously for my mother, who has issues and can't be by herself. Moving her to Mexico would not be an option. So I would have to figure out where to put her and who is going to take care of her and all of that stuff.
Does he have a final hearing date yet, or a trial date, anything like that?
January 2017.
So when was his last hearing?
February of 2014.
So there's a 3-year delay?
Yes.
Why is that?
That
3 years for your next hearing?
Yeah, this all started in 2011, so it's kind of a long process, but there's been delay after delay because the courts are so packed. And we go through Chicago, and the courts are so packed that the judge said that that was the soonest, 2017 was the soonest they could get us in.
Well, that's pretty amazing, given all the reports that with the influx of the Central American children, that the dates are going to be extended even further. Right. I mean, it's likely you could receive a notice that says, hey, your husband's hearing's been rescheduled to 2020. That's crazy. How far do you live from Chicago?
About 8 hours.
So you have to travel 8 hours to go to immigration court?
Yes, sir.
That's quite a ride. I thought we had it bad here with the Los Angeles court. Some of the areas are about a 6-hour ride. Now, given your involvement with immigration, what advice would you give someone that's in a situation similar to yours? If there's one piece of advice you could give someone, what would it be?
To get a lawyer. Don't try to do this on your own. People have succeeded, but it's not anything easy, and it's not something that you want to play with. But when you go to get that lawyer, do not forget to ask questions. Don't take the first lawyer that offers you a cheap, what do you want to call it, reasonable deal or whatever. It's not a deal, it's your life. Ask the questions.
What are some of the key questions that you might tell them to ask?
Well, first of all, if it was me, I would want references, and I would want a lot of references. I would also personally become a little private eye, and I would, not private eye, but investigator, and I would check out what, what their success rate is. Ask them how long they've been doing this, where they go to college, what can they do for your case. Ask them specifically how they're going to handle your case. Ask them how they're good on communication, because communication is a big issue.
You said you would ask them for references. What kind of references? I mean, okay, let's say you were my client, okay, and okay, we won your case. So someone new comes to me and they want references. How many individuals in your positions going to be willing to tell someone else about their case?
If I win, I will shout to the rooftops who helped me. Trust me.
I mean, how many individuals, let's say, I mean, seriously, okay, someone wins their case and other immigrants come in and they're scared. I mean, they're scared, the families are scared, and they say they want references. How many individuals do you think that win their case are still going to be a little distrusting of someone calling them and asking them about their case?
No, I don't think that I should ever be able to call someone, ask them about their case. But like, if the lawyer has a web page, maybe they listed the references. You know, like a good thing about you. Go to that page and check it out and see what's on there. See what people are saying about this lawyer.
You know, you mentioned success rate. When I first moved into Riverside, I had been practicing in San Diego for over a decade, and there was an attorney who was advertising all over the place saying he had a 99% success rate. Well, the first few clients came into my office, I talked to them, and I said, well, they asked me about my success rate. I said, you know, that's really hard to give, because we got to talk about what type of cases we're talking about. And I said, anybody that says they got a 99 success rate is either pulling your leg, or they're really good at selecting their cases, or you might be to 1%. So when people give success rates, how is that based? I mean, to be successful helping you on a green card would be different than helping you in court. There's got to be a different success rate in those two situations automatically. So what could I, as a lawyer, and I'm asking you, tell a client that asked me that question?
Well, it depends what their case is. You only want to talk specifically about their case, I would say. But if I was hiring you and I asked you about the 42B, what is your success rate? If you told me 99%, I would laugh at you and probably hang up the phone. But depending on the way you word your answer, like what you just said a minute ago, would lend me credit to what you're saying, if that makes sense. Like, I can usually tell when you're buffaloing me, basically.
Okay, that's good, but you're an informed immigrant advocate now.
True.
We're talking about people that are still light years behind you on the curve. They don't understand the ins and outs of immigration, and they're reacting at moments of panic and fear. What could, I mean, all of us do, not just you as an advocate, but me as a lawyer and the people watching this show that care about immigrants. What can we do to help others through that initial process?
I think the biggest problem with the entire immigration debate is the lack of education. As an advocate, I feel like it's my duty to help educate people on different situations. For example, on Fair Unity, a person will come to us, have you heard of such and such lawyer? No, but we can put it out there and see if anybody else has had dealings with them, and we'll connect you. And that's how we would handle that. But education, we have to teach people. We can't expect them to know everything when they, first get involved. I didn't. I learned so much information from people that Stacy Bonilla, I learned a ton from her. Kimberly, she taught me a lot. Deborah, a lot of people, they taught me a lot, and it's the support systems. And it's our job when we're in those support systems to help educate each other.
Yeah, you just mentioned some names, so let me mention them too. There's Deborah Santos, there's Ellen Jimerson, Bob Drews, all who are going to be future guests on this show. They may not know it yet, but they are. I mean, they're really active in the immigrant community and very helpful at sharing information with people. And I know each of you are members of different groups, and you have huge memberships. All of you have huge memberships. Does your membership actively come to you for advice? Do they talk to you outside of Facebook? Because I would assume that inside Facebook you keep it a little close knit. What you say?
Yeah, I don't go out there and give my phone number out to everybody. Fair Unity has a phone number. People can call. We also have an address put up. They can write. Some friendships you develop in these groups where you're able to exchange addresses and telephone numbers. I have very close friends that I have, but we do keep our groups a little bit closed and close-knit because obviously of the opposition. But excuse me. But we definitely have ways that they can reach out to us. And all day long in these groups, people are giving information. It's an information center.
Do you have any intentions to turn Fair Unity into more than a Facebook group? Have you ever considered making it a non-profit organization?
We hope so one day. Right now, it's not in the cards, but hopefully soon. Hopefully in the near future.
Now, as we get to immigration reform, I noticed yesterday on Facebook you posted something.
Uh-oh.
These are your words.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Rodriguez, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're wrong. I am entitled to mine. You're wrong. No doubt this is a complicated issue, but at the end of the day, you're sending is American children matter, so long as both parents aren't undocumented. But non-American kids do not matter. I don't, I can't, and I won't accept that. What was Paul Rodriguez talking about?
He was talking about the border crisis that they're calling it, and basically saying how they need to send them back and they need to do this, that, and the other. No compassion for these kids, and it lit me up. You need to stick to comedy and not be a politician.
And what, in terms of the children from Central America, what could be done in your mind?
I don't know, Carlos. I've thought about this and thought about this and thought about it, and I knew you were going to ask me. I have no idea. I don't know. I think that we have a duty to protect these kids. We have a duty to protect any kid, but at the same time, we can't leave them in dog kennels. You saw the pictures, I'm sure, of the children in what looked to me like dog kennels, and just stacked on top of each other. It seems like in the warehouses. We can't do it that way. So I'm not sure how to go about it, but I know there's something we have to do. The message that some kids matter and some don't is not. That's not a message that I can support.
Immigration reform. Your opinion?
What do you mean?
Tell me what you think about what's been done or has not been done on immigration reform.
I don't really think anything's been done. I think it's a game that they're playing, honestly, at this point. I read yesterday, I believe, that Obama was working with his lawyers to make an executive order for businesses, to make it easier for businesses to hire or something like that. Again, families were left out, so I don't think there's anything being done or anything solid or substantial that can help our families, which is what we need.
Okay, let me, before we start to wrap up here, I just wanted to say thank you to some of the people that signed up to watch our first show. This is a grand experiment in informal chatting about immigration. So hopefully we've been able to deliver some useful information for everyone. So let me, I want to thank Penny, Michelle, Maria, Sophia, Nakia, oh, my little big sister Gloria Rodriguez, Steve Alvarez. Hey, that's your husband. Hey, where's he at?
Hey, I didn't know
Steve.
he was watching. Hi.
Well, let's give a hand of applause for Steve, Steve Dickerson, Rosario, Renee, Miranda, of course, Bob Drew's a future guest, Norma, future guest here, Juan, Ellen, Laura, Jennifer, Amy, Deborah, and we got a big list here. Casey, you probably know all these names by heart, Chasity.
Yep, I do.
Jennifer, Arceli, Jasenia, Regina, Raquel, Misty, Denise, Margarita, Jennifer, Lori, Brandy, Rachel, um, Angie, that's my wife, who's making sure that I don't go overboard here and torture you like I do some of my clients. My son, Francisco. For those of you in San Diego, Francisco's a new lawyer, and he'll be running the San Diego office in just a few months here. So hopefully I've beat him up enough that he'll go out and beat up some ICE officers for you. Cecilia, Nicole, Crystal, and Anna. If I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but that's the list that I got. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. But before we leave, Chasity, what's a final word of wisdom that you would give everyone listening when it comes to immigration? I mean, I assume most people listening either are facing immigration problems, or they know someone that they care about very deeply that's facing immigration problems, or they are very strong immigrant advocates. So what would be your closing words of wisdom for them?
I would just tell them not to give up, because their families are what's most important. Their children, their spouses. I don't know how we're going to get it done, but together, if we unite, we're going to get it done. But we have to unite. We can't have all these different groups that are split in different directions. We have to come together. We have to get this done. I think the Dreamers, they made a big, huge step when they started their movement. They're not to the finish line yet, but they're closer than we are as families. The kids that coming from Central America, they opened that border wide. We're the last one standing. We have to come together, unite, and make a stand. We have to keep fighting.
You know, Ellen has a question for you, Chasity. She wanted you to talk about H.R. 3431, the Families United Bill. Would you like to address that briefly?
Yeah, the Families United Bill is a bill that would help, like my friend Kimberly, it would help her to be able to, she's currently in Guatemala with her husband. I think he has a 10-year bar, and it would help people like her to be able to come home, bring her husband home. I fully support this bill. I think that it goes a long way towards establishing family unity, getting families back together. One thing they don't talk about when they talk about family unity is the fact that no matter what, families are separated. Sure, I can go with my husband, but I leave my mom behind. So no matter what, we have to have a solution that's going to be family focused. Otherwise, somebody is left behind.
You mentioned a term right now, 10-year bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it means. I know what it means. Probably a lot of listeners know what it means. But when we're talking about the group of immigrants who are new to the process, things like the 10-year bar, the 3-year bar, how do we go about informing them about that? I mean, I see cases even today where people come to my office and someone's stuck on the other side of the border because they were never told about the bars.
I didn't until my husband's arrest. I didn't know about the bar either. I had no clue. I just thought it was an easy fix. A lot of people are that way. We just don't know. If you come here, I think it's over a year, and stayed over a year, you automatically trigger that bar. And there are waivers available, but it depends on other circumstances whether you can get a waiver, and those waivers are very hard to prove. So it sticks a lot of families in, like Kim, for example, in Guatemala for 10 years without her husband. If she wants to come back for Christmas to see her daughters, he can't come with her.
But my question is more, how do we get people that are clueless about that? How do we get the word out that they need to be careful about that? Because a lot of people they're going out and they take the word of people and they file papers and then they're stuck.
People like you, I think you are actually going to bring a lot of awareness by doing these web things. I think education, if we're going to be advocates, we have to be truly advocates, and we have to give them the answers and the resources that they need. But again, that comes with all of us working together, not against each other. Education.
Well, I thank you for the compliment, Chasity, and I also want to thank you for being a great guest, for being a courageous guest, for going on Immigration Live, being our very first guest. I also want to again thank James Chapman. You can find him at 123edge.com, and Kim Lam, integrityprojectmanagement.com. And I want to thank everyone that's tuned in to listen. And don't be surprised, your turn is coming. So have a great day, and I hope you found this show informative. Thank you.